Hello my dear class 10 students, welcoming you all back to our English class. In our previous two classes, we have discussed the drama Riders to the Sea, and I hope you got the rough idea of what it is, and by now I'm sure you have gone through your text over 2-3 times. That is going to help you more. And we have discussed on how the drama goes about, and we have learned the difficulties and the troubles that they had to go through living around the sea, right? But what I want you to know here is you have to know that the sea is both a provider and a destroyer. Okay, without the sea their life would be impossible. It would be impossible for them to live. Why? Because they go for fishing, they sell their cages, and then they will make money out of it, which they will need it for their survival. You can even think of the turf, right? They use the turfs for their fuel, and that is also a product of the sea, right? If there were no water bodies around that, they would not be getting the turfs. And the sea also serves as a means of communication for them. That means they have to travel by ship and by boat, and so they do all these things through the sea. And even if their lives are at risk, they cannot escape this. And so it is both the provider and also the destroyer. We can see very clearly from this. And even in our lives, we have to know that we have to be really wise in making use of the things around us, because if you use it to the extreme, it might destroy you. And if not, if you use it properly, it might be a life-saving thing for you. This is what we also learned, and it is also one theme. And in another thing, what we see is the lady, that is Moria, and the whole family is quite superstitious in some ways. We can see that, but in the other, they are religious too, right? They believe and they have their faith on God, and to the last, from the beginning of the drama till the last, what we saw is that they did not give up their faith in their religion and in their God. Every time we would see the priest in the drama again. You also remember the priest giving the clothes to Nora, right? And the priest also said that he would not stop Bartley from going to the sea because their mother would be praying the whole night every time. And why would God be so cruel to take the last surviving male member of the family? And with this hope, he did not stop Bartley, though the mother was consistently stopping and is against Bartley going to the sea, right? And we also see the fine boards in the beginning of the drama. The fine boards which were bought from Conmera, that is a place that were bought for Michael's dead body, right? They want to bury the dead body of Michael from the finest boards. It is not any ordinary board that they are going to construct the coffin, okay? But they also saw that Michael's body was not found. Finally, Michael's clothes along with Bartley's dead body had to be there, right? He got the finest boards to bury him. And we also see that the family is in great trouble because all the male members of the family have been taken away. Even to this extent, they did not lose hope. We see the mother sprinkling the holy water on the clothes of Michael and also on Bartley's dead body. If she was a person who would have lost her hope on God, she would not be doing this. But this proved that she was satisfied, believing that fate is something that we cannot escape. No matter how much we pray to God, she began to learn that we have to be satisfied with that, because when God wants that to come to our lives, we cannot stop it. That is also something that we have seen from this drama. And one more thing that I want all of you to go back is to recollect back is when Bartley was leaving his house to go to the Galway fair, the mother said, "What would be the price of 100 horses to the son, to a son who is living at home, the only son?" We can see the pain that Moria has because she did not want to lose the last son living in her home, right? She did not want this to happen. And she said that material riches are not enough for a person to be happy. It is the lives that matter, and that is your lives to your parents. We have to think in all the concepts, right? Your life matters to your parents more than anything else. You may think that you would bring a lot of money and make your parents happy, but this cannot be done. It is your obedience and your discipline towards them, your respect towards them will give them the happiness. A lot of wealth on this earth would not mean anything to an aging mother, but the love and support that she gets from her children would be everything that she would need. And we saw this, right? And when Bartley was going away, he told Kathleen to go down and see if the sheep aren't jumping on the ride. That means there are seeds kept to dry. And so if the sheep are jumping on that, it would be difficult. And she also gave the responsibility of selling the pig with the black feet, right? Selling the pig with the black feet if the jobber comes and get it for a good price. Here, the mother was already very burdened with everything, so she did not even have this. She did not even have the hope that Kathleen would be able to do this. And she told the son that Kathleen would never be able to get a good price for the pig. These are the things that we see in the whole story. One main thing that you have to remember is the sea as a provider. Why? Because they get all their food from the sea. They have to travel by the sea. So it's a provider. Unless they travel across the sea, they will not be able to get the food and the materials required for their survival, right? That is one thing we need to remember. And it is also a destroyer. Why? Because the sea had consumed everything. The husband, okay, Moria's husband, that is their father, her father-in-law, and all the male members of the family, 6 of them died in the sea. And so she says that the sea, not she says, we saw that the sea is both provider as well as destroyer. So these are some things that I've given for you to ponder on this, okay? And with this, I'm going to conclude this chapter because we have already taken 2 classes for this. But I said this word so that you will be able to bring out something of those points and write your answers if you get any questions to think and write. Okay, when you get think and write questions, do not just stick to the book, but you have to bring your own thinking. Okay, you have to really think and write what you think is right. Sometimes your answers will not be found in the books alone. You have to utilize your common sense and then put it into practice after having an analysis. Okay, after analyzing the drama well, you have to write that, because in drama we also get those type of questions. And now we will go on to grammar worksheet 5. Okay, grammar worksheet 5, I'll help you to find the pages. It's in page number 162. Grammar worksheet 5, page number 162. By now, we all know the marking system, 15 marks for grammar, and grammar is very specific in their answers. If you make a mistake in your grammar, it's very difficult to score mark, because almost all grammar answers are for solid marks. If you make one spelling mistake, you will miss your mark there. So even for your daily usage, you have to learn, as well as you have to be very careful in listening to the explanations of grammar. By class 9, you have learned what a phrase and a clause is. We are going to revise a phrase and a clause again. Phrases are a group of words, okay, which does not make sense on its own. It is a group of words, but it cannot make meaning on its own. Example, I filled the flask with hot coffee. With hot coffee will be the phrase, right? From your lower classes, you have been studying this kind of topics, but every year we feel like we are forgetting things. But it is also very important for you and I to revise things, and things will become easier for us. It's not that you are studying a very new and fresh topic today. These topics are added from your lower classes. By class 5, 6, you have started phrases and clauses, and by class 10, now you must be a master in that, right? So in order to help you to be a master, I'm going to explain it in very simple terms. I said, I filled the flask with hot coffee. With hot coffee is the phrase there, because in a phrase you will not find a subject and you will not find a finite verb. Finite verbs is something that we always keep discussing in, right? In class 10, we always discuss a lot about finite verbs, because unless you know that, it is also difficult to understand tense. And here, even in phrases and clauses, now we see the importance of finite verbs. In the first part of our class, I've already told you that finite verbs will be needed in your next classes, and so this is exactly coming into take place right now. So a finite verb is a verb that changes with the change of tense, right? I hope you know what is tense. We have three main tenses: the past, the present, and the future, right? In a finite verb, you will see finite verbs will be the verbs that changes with the change of tense. I'll give you an example. I went to Delhi for my vacation, or I went to Delhi to study, right? So in that case, if I tell you to point out the verbs, you will say went and to study, right? Study is also an action, went is also an action. But we will see the difference here. I went to Delhi to study, or if you are going to change it into future tense, I will go to Delhi to study. Went has been changed to will go, but why did the word study remain the same here? Okay, went has been changed to will go, and study remains study as usual. So these are called as non-finite verbs. Non-finite verbs will have T or to in front of the verb, okay? To plus verb or verb plus ing. These are called as non-finite verbs, okay? And all the other verbs without to or verb plus ing will be finite verb. That is the easiest way to differentiate what a finite verb is and what is a non-finite verb, okay? And so in a phrase, you will not find a finite verb, you will not find a subject. Okay, I fill the flask with hot coffee, with hot coffee. If you look at that, with is not a verb, hot is not a verb, coffee is not a verb. That's why it is a phrase. And clauses are stronger than that, okay? Though it depends on another part of the sentence, it is still not complete on its own, right? It's not complete on its own, and that's why we are going to divide clauses into two types, dependent and independent, okay? There are two types of clauses. One clause is called dependent clause, or the principal clause, or the main clause, okay? I'm going to write it here for you. Dependent clause is also called as principal or, independent. Independent clause is also called as the principal clause or the main clause. Why? Because it can stand on its own, okay? Here, I'm going to give you an example. The earth revolves around the sun. That is a sentence, but sometimes the earth revolves around the sun can also be called as a clause because, and in this type of clause, we call it as the independent clause because without any help, it can stand on its own, right? And if I say, the girl who was wearing a pink dress is a good student. The girl who is wearing a pink dress is a good student. So, who is wearing a pink dress here becomes the clause. But it is not a question, so it cannot stand on its own, right? The pen that I bought from the market is good. The pen that I bought from the market is good, right? That I bought from the market. If I just come and say without mentioning the pen is the subject here, but if I come and tell you that I bought from the market, you will not understand what I am trying to tell you. You are still waiting for me to complete my sentence because you and I know very well that the sentence is incomplete. So those type of words, those type of group of words are called as clauses. It has to depend on somebody else or something else to make complete sense, okay? If I say the pen is good, now you know that I'm talking about the pen. Is becomes the finite verb, good becomes the predicate. So that itself makes a complete sense. But if I say that I bought from the market, you cannot understand what I'm trying to say. Those are called as dependent clause. We can divide the dependent clause into three types, three categories again, okay? There are three categories. One will be subordinate, okay? One will be coordinate. So, in a subordinate clause, what we see here? Okay, I want you to turn to page number 165. The three types of clauses are principal clause, subordinate clause, and coordinate clause. For class 10 students, these three types of clauses are very important. In the following worksheet, we will deal with adverb, adjective, and noun clauses. But for this worksheet, these three clauses are very important, and if you understand these three types of clauses, That means you have understood the whole of the worksheet. Though there will be a lot of questions coming in, okay? You will get a lot of questions here, but if you are clear with these 3 clauses, it's going to be very, very easy for all of us. So I want you to listen to this carefully. The principal clause will be a clause which will be able to stand on its own without depending on another clause. You can even call it as a simple sentence in some ways, okay? And then the subordinate clause. In a subordinate clause, there will be a clause which will start with a relative conjunction, and you will know that it is subordinate clause, okay? And in a coordinate clause, there will be 2 equal clauses. 2 equal clauses joined by a conjunction, which is called as the coordinate clause. That means they are coordinating. You know what is coordinating, right? Working together. They are equal, but they're still working together, okay? I like cheese, but my sister doesn't like. Or I like cheese, but my sister likes fruits. So the sentence tells you that there is one person who likes cheese and another person who likes apples, okay? There are 2 different things, and so their choices are different. It is joined by a conjunction. That means they are of the same value, just joined by a conjunction. Those type of clauses are called as coordinate clause. In a subordinate clause, what you see is it has to depend on something. She likes song that is composed by A.R. Rahman. Example. Debu likes to listen to A.R. Rahman's music. We can even use it that way, but in the sentence that I've used just now, she likes music that is composed by A.R. Rahman. That means she likes music is the principal clause. That is composed by A.R. Rahman is the subordinate clause. That means it cannot stand on its own. Coordinate clauses are 2 clauses which can stand on their own, but they are joined by a conjunction to make it into one sentence. I'm just going to read out a few examples from our book so that you will also be able to understand, as well as I will help you to solve 1 or 2 exercises, which is going to be easy for you, okay? I want you to look at page number 164, exercise B. Page number 164, exercise B. If you see that, underline the subordinate clauses in the given sentence. I'm going to give you 2 answers, okay? The house which has a big garden in front is Ratan's. In short, we can say the house is Ratan's, right? But it's giving an extra information, right? Which has a big garden in front is describing the house, isn't it? And so those type of clauses are called as subordinate clause, okay? God helps those who help themselves. God helps those who help themselves. The words those who help themselves will be the subordinate clause, right? And so that is exercise B. Let's look at one exercise, that is exercise D. Identify the main clauses, subordinate clause and coordinate clauses wherever they occur in the following sentences. Priya had a nice basket full of fruits. That is just the main clause, right? We can assume that a simple sentence. Here, I wanted to play Scrabble, but my sister was keen on playing Monopoly. That is a coordinate clause, right? Because there are 2 equal sentences joined by the word but. And in the third one, okay, we have Debu likes music that is composed by A.R. Rahman. The same sentence that I used, okay? That is composed by A.R. Rahman is the subordinate clause there. He can just say Debu likes music, right? But extra information given by the clauses here, it shows that it is a subordinate clause, okay? And so this is what we have learned today, clauses and phrases, right? One last time I'm going to explain what is a phrase and a clause, and then we will end this class for today. A phrase is a group of words that does not make sense on its own, right? It does not have a subject, it does not have a finite verb, right? And a clause will be a group of words which has a subject, which has a predicate, and also a finite verb. Main clauses are just simple sentences. They can be even called principal clause or independent clause. Do not get confused with these 3 names. All these 3 names refer to one thing. That means sentences that can stand on their own, right? And then we have another one that is dependent clause. we have the subordinate clause and we have the coordinate clause. Coordinate clauses are two groups of sentences or two types of clauses that have equal weight joined by a conjunction, and subordinate clause will be the weaker part of the sentence which has to depend on the main clause to make sense. Okay, I hope that is clear to you. Please solve all the exercises that are given because we don't have much exercises in this worksheet, and get ready with your worksheet 6 before we meet again in the next class. Thank you all so much for listening.